I've never liked calling ahead to let people know when I'm arriving. It's just something I've always done, ever since I was a kid. There's nothing better than catching Helen off guards, seeing her eyes light up when I walk through the door earlier than she expected. She still runs to hug me, like we're newlyweds or something, even though it's been 42 years. Before I get into the story, I want to ask you for a favor. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe. You have no idea how much that helps. So, it was December 21st. I'd been out driving for a rideshare app, but our little coastal town was quiet that day. I started thinking about heading home early. Getting a jump on the holiday prep with my wife. Christmas has always meant a lot to us, especially now that it's just the two of us. Nathan, our only son, married Amber and moved out a while ago. It's been quieter, you know. I was about to call it quits when Roger, another driver who always parks near the terminal, called out, "Arthur, you're leaving already. It's only 4 o'clock, already hit my quota for the day." "My friend," I told him, slipping my phone into my shirt pocket. "I want to surprise my wife." Roger just laughed and clapped me on the back. 40 years married and you're still surprising her. That's the way, Arthur. I got into my old 2016 Nissan Versa, the one I picked up after I left construction for good. My back and knees just gave out after 62 years of hauling cement and climbing scaffolding. As I slowly drove through town, I started thinking about everything Helen and I had built together. Our house isn't much small, but solid. It took us nearly 30 years to finish. I laid every brick myself. We saved every penny for materials. Helen did laundry and ironing for other people, and I worked double shifts whenever I could. It wasn't easy, but it was ours. I turned onto our street, and that's when I noticed something off. There was a car parked out front, a black Honda Civic that I'd never seen before. Pretty new, too. And next to it, Nathan's truck. I wasn't expecting him until Christmas Eve, 3 days away. I parked half a block down and started walking toward the house. Something just felt wrong. Nathan never showed up unannounced, especially not with someone else's car. As I got closer, I heard laughter, men and women, glasses clinking. But then I saw Helen, sitting by herself on the little bench by the door, head down, shoulders shaking. She was crying. My heart dropped. I walked up quietly and crouched in front of her. "Hey, what's wrong, love?" I whispered. Helen looked up, startled and a little scared. Her eyes were swollen and red. I wasn't expecting you so early," she said, trying to wipe away her tears. "What's going on? Why are you crying?" I asked, taking her cold hands in mine, even though it was warm outside. She glanced nervously at the half-open door, where the laughter just kept coming. "It's nothing, just," she started. But then Nathan's voice cut her off. "Come on, Mom, don't be like that. It's just one signature," he shouted from inside, using that sharp tone he gets when he's annoyed. Mr. Harold and Mrs. Miriam came all this way to help us with the papers. Nathan's in-laws, papers, signatures. A chill ran through me. "What papers?" I asked Helen, lowering my voice. She squeezed my hands, and I saw fear in her eyes, real fear, the kind I'd never seen before. "They got here 2 hours ago," she said, her voice shaking. "Nathan, Amber, her parents. They brought some beers, started making toasts. I thought it was just a holiday visit." But then she stopped. We heard footsteps. I stood up quick and moved to the side, half hidden by the porch column. The doors swung open and Nathan came out. He's 35 now, and he looks just like I did at his age. But there's something in his eyes I never liked, and it only got worse after he met Amber and her family. "Mom, stop making this difficult," he said, not seeing me. "We just need you to sign the transfer and the power of attorney, and then everyone can relax. The house will be safe with us. Not with you, too, you're already old." Those words hit me like a punch. Transfer, power of attorney, our house. What transfer, Nathan? I stepped out from behind the column. He jumped, startled, face draining of color. "Dad, no, I didn't know you were here," he stammered, glancing nervously back inside. "How long have you been here?" "Long enough," I said, feeling my blood start to boil. "What's this about a transfer and a power of attorney? What are you making your mother sign?" Before Nathan could answer, Amber appeared behind him. Asterisk, she was beautiful. No denying that, but her smile never touched her eyes. "Mr. Arthur, what a pleasant surprise," she said, all fake cheer. "We were just talking about you." Two more people stepped in behind her, Mr. Harold Leidesma and Mrs. Merriam. Harold looked like a man who never missed a meal. Mustache trimmed, sharp, dressed in clothes that probably cost more than my car. Miriam was thin, hair bleached to blonde, weighed down by jewelry that looked like it might snap her neck. "Mr. Arthur, a pleasure to see you," Harold said, sticking his hand out. I ignored it. My focus was on my son. "Nathan, I asked you a question. What papers are you asking your mother to sign?" Nathan shot a quick look at his father-in-law before answering. "Dad, it's nothing serious. We just wanted to make sure the family's future is secure." He was trying to sound calm, reasonable. "With your job as a driver, your age, we're just worried about the house if something were to happen to you." "If you put it in your name," I cut in, my chest tight. "This house? The one I built brick by brick. The one your mother and I worked 40 years to pay off." "Mr. Arthur, I think you're misunderstanding," Harold broke in, dripping condescension. My fists tightened. "We just want to protect the family's assets. Nathan and I have connections. We can make sure everything stays in order." "In order," I echoed, trying to keep my voice steady. "This house is already in order. I've got the deed. The papers are all up to date. I don't need anyone to protect it." "Dad, you're being stubborn," Nathan said, and I caught the glassiness in his eyes, the wobble in his stance. He'd been drinking. "You're not young enough to be driving around all day. What'll happen when you can't work anymore? How will you keep the house?" Helen's hand slid onto my arm, a gentle squeeze. Her silent plea for me to keep my cool. "Your mother and I have planned for retirement," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "We have savings. I get a pension. The house is paid off. We're fine." "Mr. Arthur," Mrs. Miriam chimed in, giving me a smile that tried for motherly but landed somewhere between pity and manipulation. "We just want what's best for everyone. If you put the house in Nathan and Amber's names, you could stay here without worry. They'd take care of everything. Taxes, maintenance. You could just enjoy your old age." Amber jumped in, looking straight at Helen. "Mrs. Helen, you understood a minute ago. Why hesitate now?" Helen dropped her gaze, cheeks flushed, and I felt something crack inside me. They'd been working on her, maybe for hours. "Catching her alone. Nobody's signing anything," I said. Stepping in front of Helen, and I'm asking you all to leave my house, now." Harold's smile vanished, replaced by something colder. "You're making a mistake. Mr. Arthur, we just want to help." "If you want to help," I shot back, locking eyes with him, "start by respecting our choices and our home." Nathan moved toward me, face flushed with either anger or booze or both. "Dad, you're ruining everything. Mr. Harold can help us. He knows people. If the house is in our name, we could even get a loan to expand it, make things better for everyone." So that was their angle. They wanted to use our house, our last bit of security, for their own loans or schemes. "Nathan, look at me," I said, keeping my voice level. "This house isn't for sale. It's not for loan. And I'm not putting it in anyone's name but mine and your mother's. So now, all of you please leave." Everyone froze for a moment. Then Harold let out a short, sour laugh. "Let's go, family. Mr. Arthur needs some time to think things over," he said, waving them toward the door. "We'll talk again when he's calmer." Amber grabbed Nathan's arm. He looked at me, torn between rage and shame. "Dad, you're making a mistake. We just want to help you." "If you want to help," I replied, "try respecting your parents and what we've built." They went inside to collect their things. I took the chance to turn to Helen. "Did they pressure you? Did you sign anything?" I asked, my voice low. She shook her head. "No, but they wouldn't let up. They kept saying it was for the best, that we'd be protected if something happened to you." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Arthur." For a moment, I almost believed them. I hugged her tight, felt how small she was against me. Right then, I promised myself nobody was going to make her cry like that again, not even our own son. A few minutes later, they came out with their bags. Harold shot me a look that tried for friendly, but I saw what was hiding underneath. "Think about it, Mr. Arthur. The offer's still on the table. We just want what's best for everyone," he said, reaching out his hand again. For the second time. I left it hanging there. "Thanks for your concern," I shot back, voice flat. "But my wife and I know exactly how to handle our own business." When they finally left, Nathan lingered by his truck. "Dad, Mum, I'm sorry if I made you feel bad," he said. But there wasn't much real apology in his voice. "I was just thinking about everyone's future, Nathan." "Son," I told him, suddenly feeling "your mother and I decide our future. I hope you don't ever try something like this again." He nodded, but the look in his eyes, this wasn't over. I watched them drive away, and a cold unease crept into my chest. This felt like the first skirmish in a war I never wanted, but I wasn't about to back down. Helen slipped her hand into mine, and we went inside together. The kitchen still had half-finished beer bottles and some papers scattered on the table. I picked them up. My heart nearly stopped. Drafts of a power of attorney, a property transfer, already on a notary letterhead. They'd planned this out. "Look at this," I muttered, showing Helen the papers. She stared at them, horrified, then threw her arms around me. "I'm scared," she whispered. "The way they talk to us, like we're two useless old people who can't make our own choices anymore." I held her, kissed her forehead, but my mind was already racing. I had to move fast to protect everything we'd built. I needed a plan. "Don't worry, love," I said, trying to sound sure. "I won't let anyone take what's ours. I promise." Holding her close, I looked around our small living room. Every corner had a story, a memory. Our whole lives were wrapped up in these walls. And it hit me this wasn't just about a house. It was about our dignity, our life's work, our right to decide what's ours. That night, Helen slept fitfully beside me. I lay awake, mind spinning. I didn't know exactly what Nathan and the Ledesmas wanted, but I knew they weren't giving up. Neither was I. I remembered Captain Ari, an old friend now with the city police, and Jessica Casteda, a sharp young lawyer who'd helped a fellow driver with a similar mess. I'd call them first thing. This fight was just getting started, and I had no intention of losing. I barely slept. Helen tossed and turned, and I kept replaying the whole thing. Nathan raising a toast with his in-laws, while my wife cried outside. The memory burned. Before dawn, I got up and put on coffee. Sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around my cup, I picked up my phone and called Roger. Arthur. He answered, voice thick with sleep. What's going on? It's barely 5. I need a favor, I said. Can you cover for me today? I've got urgent business. Of course, Arthur, he said after a pause. Everything okay with Mrs. Helen? I'll tell you later, I said. I owe you. After I hung up, Helen's hands slid onto my shoulders. I hadn't even heard her get up. Where are you going so early? She asked, pouring herself coffee. To make sure no one takes what's ours, I told her, squeezing her hand. Trust me, love. She looked at me really, looked the way she always does. After 42 years, she can still read me like a book. Be careful, Arthur, she said quietly. I know that look. I tried to smile, though inside I felt a mix of anger and determination I hadn't felt in years. I'm always careful, I told her, kissing her. But this time, I'm not just going to stand by. First stop. The municipal police station. Just a single story, paint peeling, barely waking up for the day. 2 young officers shuffled out, red-eyed after the night shift. Mr. Arthur, someone called my name. I turned. Captain Arriaga stood there, looking just the same as when we were kids, though life had worn us both down in different ways. We grew up on the same block, but he joined the police while I went into construction. Years later, our kids ended up at the same school, and life circled us back together. Martin, good to see you, I said, shaking his hand. What brings you here so early? He asked, waving me into his office. Come on in, I just made coffee. Inside, I laid everything out, the whole story from yesterday. As I talked, I saw his face harden. I know the Ledesmas, he said finally, leaning back in his chair. Harold acts like a big-shot businessman, but he's got a reputation for taking advantage. And what you're telling me about Nathan... He stopped for a second. Arthur, I'm just going to say, it's your son's always taken the easy way out. I didn't take offense. Martin was just being honest. What else could I do? Martin, I'm worried they'll bother Helen when I'm not around. Captain Arriaga rubbed his chin, thinking it over. Honestly, if they haven't broken any laws, my hands are kind of tied. But I can run more patrols past your place. If they show up or try anything, you call me right away. I thanked him, but deep down, I knew that wouldn't be enough. I needed real legal protection. Do you know a lawyer named Jessica Casteda? I asked. Mrs. Casteda. Sure, she's good. Helped a bunch of people I know with property stuff and inheritance issues. Her office is near the market. I left Martin and headed straight to her office. Weirdly, even though it was early, the lights were already on. I knocked on the frosted glass door. A young voice called me in. Jessica Casteda was younger than I'd pictured, maybe in her 30s. She wore a simple suit, her black hair pulled back in a tight bun, thin glasses framing sharp, curious eyes. She gestured to the chair in front of her desk. "How can I help you?" I told her everything, held nothing back. She listened quietly, jotting notes every so often. When I finished, she took off her glasses and looked me in the eye. "Mr. Arthur, what you're describing isn't unusual. Family members sometimes pressure seniors to sign over assets, sometimes by tricking them, sometimes with threats. What can I do to protect us?" I asked. "Several things," she said, slipping her glasses back on. "First, let's look at your paperwork. Do you have a will?" "I made one about 10 years ago," I admitted. "Nathan's our only son, so we left everything to him." She shook her head. "We need to fix that right away. And we have to revoke any power of attorney you've given your son." "Power of attorney? We never gave him that." Jessica studied me. "Are you sure? Sometimes people sign things they don't fully understand. Maybe your wife signed something without you knowing." A cold feeling crept up my spine. Helen swore she hadn't signed anything yesterday. But before that, I wasn't sure. "I'll check." "Let's do this," Jessica said, grabbing her phone. "I know all the notaries in town. I'll ask if there's any power of attorney in your son or daughter-in-law's name. Meanwhile, we'll draft a revocation and a new will. We can get that done in 2 hours." She started working on the documents while I filled her in on everything we owned. Besides the house, we had a bit of savings and a small plot of land outside town bought years ago, thinking we'd retire there. "Mr. Arthur," Jessica said as she wrapped up, "I suggest putting the house in a trust. It'll protect the property after you're gone. Make sure your wife can stay there for life, and you can decide who gets it next door. Even leave it to a charity if you want. The key is, no one can pressure you to hand it over." Right then, her phone rang. She answered, face turning serious as she listened. When she hung up, she looked at me grimly. "We've got a problem. According to Mr. Lopez, the notary, a general power of attorney was registered 6 months ago. Your son Nathan, signed by Mrs. Helen." The room spun. "That's impossible," I said. "Helen would never do that without telling me. The notary says the signature looks real." But Jessica paused, watching me. "Does your wife always sign her own documents, or do you sometimes sign for her?" Her question hit me hard, but I understood what she meant. "Sometimes I sign for her. Routine stuff, if she's busy or not feeling well. Our signatures look almost the same." Jessica nodded, like she'd guessed as much. "Is it possible someone forged her signature? Or maybe she signed something, thinking it was something else? In any case, we're revoking that power of attorney right now and filing a complaint for possible forgery." We spent the rest of the morning going from notary to notary, revoking the power of attorney, setting up the trust, and changing the will. We made it clear if Nathan tried to coerce or manipulate us, he'd be out as an air dot. By the time we finished, it was almost noon. Before I left, Jessica gave me one final piece of advice. "Mr. Arthur, you need proof of what your son and the Ledesmas are up to. If they start pressuring you again, just hit record. We're in a one-party consent state, so as long as you're okay with it, the recording's legal." Jessica walked me through setting up the app on my phone and showed me how to use it without anyone noticing. Then she handed me a folder copies of every document we'd filed. "Keep these somewhere safe," she told me. Take a copy with you whenever you leave the house, just in case. And if you need anything, call me anytime. I walked out feeling a little stronger, but honestly, a lot sadder. I never thought I'd end up having to protect myself from my own son. On the drive home, my phone rang. Helen, her voice was tight. Arthur, Nathan just called. He's coming over with Mr. Harold. They say it's important. Don't open the door, I told her. I'm on my way. She'd already told them she wasn't alone, that Mr. S was there fixing the lock. Smart. Mr. S is the local locksmith big guy. Everyone in the neighborhood respects him. Good thinking, I told her. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I pushed the speed limit on the way home, but not enough to get pulled over. Nathan's truck was already out front, right next to Mr. Harold's black Honda Civic. My heart pounded as I parked. I remembered Jessica's advice turned on the recording app, tucked my phone into my shirt pocket, careful not to cover the mic dot inside, tension thick as fog. Helen stood near the kitchen, uneasy. Nathan and Mr. Harold sat at the table, papers everywhere. No sign of Amber or Mrs. Miriam. Dad, good thing you're here, Nathan said, standing. I was just telling Mom we're worried about you. Worried? I walked over, took Helen's hand. About what? Mr. Harold cleared his throat. Mr. Arthur, I think you misunderstood us yesterday. We don't want to take anything from you. We want to protect you. Protect us from what? I wasn't letting this go. Nathan glanced at Mr. Harold before answering. Dad, there are people out there who prey on seniors. Scammers, bad neighbors. Even the government can take your house if it's not protected. He paused, dramatic. Honestly, it was such a loaded lie, I almost laughed. But I kept my poker face. I wanted to see what else they'd try. And how exactly are you planning to protect us? Mr. Harold slid some papers across the table. It's simple. If the house is owned by a corporation we control, no one can touch it. You keep living here, but it's safer, legally. I skimmed the documents. Sales contract, disguised as asset protection, with terms so crooked they'd make a loan shark cringe. You put this together, Mr. Harold? I tried to sound casual. A lawyer friend did, he said, a little too proud. He handles assets for some of the most important families in the state, I see. I set the papers down. And Nathan, you're on board with this? Nathan jumped in. It's best for everyone. Plus, Mr. Harold offered me a position in his company if we do this. Good job, good pay. There it was. The real reason he was pushing for this. His father-in-law promised him a job. Maybe the first real job he's ever had to work for. Nathan, how long have you been out of work? I asked, keeping my voice steady. His face darkened. I'm not out of work. Just between jobs. I helped Mr. Harold with some business. What kind of business? But Mr. Harold jumped in. Real estate, mostly. This area's got a lot of potential, especially now with all the new interest. Suddenly, it all clicked. They didn't just want the house, they wanted to sell it off. Cash in while the neighborhood's value climbed. I get it, I said, sounding calm. You're right. We have to protect the family assets. Mr. Harold looked triumphant. Nathan finally smiled. Of course, I went on, and that's exactly what I've done. I just came from making sure everything's protected. I pulled out the folder Jessica gave me, laid a few documents on the table. This morning, Helen and I put the house in an irrevocable trust. We also revoked the power of attorney my wife supposedly gave Nathan 6 months ago. The second I said it, Nathan's smile disappeared and Mr. Harold stiffened in his chair. What have you done? My son practically shouted, disbelief all over his face. What I had to do, I shot back. Protect what's ours. Oh, and by the way, we filed a complaint for possible signature forgery. Miss Castana is handling everything. Mr. Harold stood up so fast, his chair nearly toppled. He started gathering his papers, trying to sound friendly but with a threat in his voice. I don't think you're thinking clearly, Mr. Arthur. We could have reached an agreement that's good for everyone. I looked at him straight. There's no agreement where taking our house could be good for everyone. That's not happening. Now, I'm asking you to leave. Nathan stared at me, caught between anger and shock. Dad, you're making a huge mistake. Mr. Harold is just trying to help us. No, Nathan, you're the one making a mistake, I said, my voice heavy with sadness. I hope you see it one day. Mr. Harold glared at me as he headed for the door. This isn't over, Mr. I have friends everywhere, and your little lawyer is going to find that out soon. I pulled out my phone. Your threats are recorded, Mr. Harold. This whole conversation is... Miss Castana told me to gather evidence, so I did. Mr. Harold's face went pale. Nathan looked like he'd been slapped. I added, we'll see you in court if we have to. But you're not taking away what we built with our own hands. Mr. Harold didn't say another word, he just left. Nathan lingered, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Finally, he said, I never thought you'd distrust me like this. I'm your son, and that's exactly why this hurts, I replied. But I can't let you do this, Nathan. Not for your sake or ours. When they were finally gone, Helen rushed over and hugged me tight. God, I was so scared, she whispered. When they called, I thought maybe I'd signed something by mistake. Or, it's okay now, I told her, hugging her back. They can't do anything to us. But as I held her, I looked out the window. Nathan and Mr. Harold were outside by their cars, arguing. Nathan was waving his arms, and Harold looked like he was giving orders. I knew this wasn't finished. Far from it. It was just starting. That night, I called the neighborhood locksmith. Mr. S, I'd known him for years. We'd worked construction jobs together back when I was a mason. He's a big guy, hands rough as sandpaper, but he's got the touch of a surgeon when it comes to locks. Change all the locks, right now, he asked, surprised. Yes, S, it's urgent. There was a pause on the other end. Trouble with the kid? He finally guessed. I wasn't surprised he knew. News travels fast around here, faster than rainwater down the street. Something like that, I said. I'll explain when you get here. An hour later, Mr. S showed up with his toolbox. While he took apart the main door, I told him what happened. Well, most of it. Left out the worst parts. He shook his head as he worked. Not the first time, Mr. Arthur. Just last month, I changed all the locks for Mrs. Herman. Her nephew stole her pension, twice, and then, well, he showed up furious, threatened to break the door down. Had to call the police. He's gone now, moved to the next town, I think. Helen made coffee while Mr. S finished up. We all sat in the kitchen, Helen gripping my hand. Arthur, do you think Nathan will try to come in? She asked, worry on her face. Before I could answer, Mr. S poked his head in from the hallway. Don't worry, Mrs. Helen. These new locks are impossible to force. And look, He pulled out a couple of small, lighter-sized cameras. "I'll install these at the front and in the backyard. They hook up to your phone. If anyone tries to get in, you get an alert." "Where'd you get those?" I asked, honestly curious. "A buddy imports them. They're good, cheap. I'll throw them in with the job." I thanked him. Extra security was welcome. Mr. S finished up around 10. He handed me 3 sets of keys, one for each of you. Keep the third set hidden, just in case. "And Mr. Arthur, if you need anything just call." I paid him what we agreed, plus extra for coming out so late and the cameras. After he left, Helen and I just sat in the living room, both of us quiet, lost in our own thoughts. "Do you really think Nathan would try to come in without permission?" My wife's voice cracked as she finally asked the question out loud. I let out a long sigh. Just the thought of it hurt, honestly. But after what I'd seen, I couldn't trust our son not anymore. "I don't know, love," I said, not even trying to hide the uncertainty. "But we have to be careful." That night, Helen tossed and turned next to me while I watched the recording over and over of Nathan and Mr. Harold talking. I sent a copy to Jessica Castana and backed it up to the cloud, exactly like she'd taught me. The next day, I went to work like nothing had happened. We had to keep things normal, at least on the outside. No need to draw extra attention. Plus, I needed the money. If life teaches you anything, it's that every legal fight, no matter how right you are, drains your wallet. Work was quiet. I picked up some tourists at the airport, dropped a family at the main beach, and ended up driving someone all the way to the next town. By the time I got home, the sun was already dipping below the rooftops. That's when I noticed 2 cars parked near my house. I didn't recognize either of them, a white Volkswagen and a red Jeep. Not Nathan's truck. Not Mr. Harold's Honda. Something felt off, and a cold shiver ran through me. I parked half a block away and crept closer, staying out of sight. My phone buzzed. The security cameras Mr. S had set up were sending alerts movement at the front door. I opened the app and just stared. Amber Nathan's wife was pounding on our door, desperate. With her stood a man and a woman I'd never seen. The woman held a briefcase, the kind that probably held stacks of paperwork. I called home fast. Helen picked up right away. Where are you?" Her voice shook. "I'm near the house. Amber's at the door with 2 others." "Who are they?" "She says it's a social worker and a doctor. They're here to evaluate," her voice wavered, "our mental capacity. She says Nathan's worried about us." Rage burned through me. So this was their new move. Try to have us declared incompetent. Don't open the door. "No matter what," I told her, my voice hard now. "Call Miss Castana, right now. Her number's in the notebook by the phone. Tell her everything." "I already did, Arthur. She told me not to let them in. She's on her way." Even in the middle of all this, I smiled. Helen had always been quicker than people realized. "Nice work, love. I'm calling Captain Arriaga, too. I'll be there in 5 minutes." I hung up and called Martin. Thank God, he answered on the first ring. "Arthur, what's wrong?" "Martin, there are people at my house trying to force their way in. They say they're a social worker and a doctor, but we never called them. I'm sure Nathan set this up. I'm coming right now. Don't do anything until I get there." But I couldn't just sit and wait. I moved in closer, hiding behind a tree at the corner, just close enough to see everything. Amber kept hammering at the door, louder and louder. "Mrs. Helen, we know you're in there," she yelled. "We just want to help. If you don't open up, we'll have to call the authorities." That's when I noticed the man filming everything on his phone. They were setting us up, building a case that we weren't cooperating. That was it. I couldn't hide anymore. I stepped out and walked up, my voice steady and loud. "Can someone explain why you're on my property?" All three spun around, caught off guard. Amber recovered fast, flashing that fake smile. "Mr. Arthur, glad you're here. This is Miss Monica Vega, the social worker, and Dr. Ramirez. They're just here for a routine evaluation." "Routine evaluation," I repeated, just staring. Who ordered this? Because my wife and I sure didn't. The supposed social worker stepped forward. She looked about 40, all businessed in a stiff suit, with a look that felt rehearsed. "Mr. Arthur, your son Nathan is worried about your well-being. We have to do an evaluation as part of our protocol." "What agency are you from?" I cut in. She wasn't wearing a badge or ID-nothing. She hesitated, just for a second. "We work with a private assistance program," she finally said. "Your son hired us, too. So you have no legal right to be here," I said flatly. "I'm telling you'll leave now." The so-called doctor jumped in. "Mr. Arthur, I understand you're upset, but this is for your own safety. We just want to make sure you and your wife can manage your affairs. It's standard for people your age." I could feel my anger rising, but I forced myself to keep it together. I didn't want to hand them anything they could twist against me. "Doctor, what's your name again?" I asked Ramirez. "Dr. Philip Ramirez," he said. But I caught a flicker of doubt in his voice. "And your medical license, Dr. Ramirez? Mind showing it to me?" He started to sweat. I have it in the car." I could. A sharp voice cut him off. "That won't be necessary." I turned. Jessica Casteda was marching over, her tone all business, with Captain Arriaga and another cop right behind. "Hermes Vega. Dr. Ramirez." Jessica didn't bother hiding her disdain. "I know exactly who you are. You're committing several crimes here, including impersonating public officials and harassment." The woman pretending to be a social worker crumbled. "We would just save it," Jessica snapped. "You can explain at the station when you show your credentials, which, honestly, I doubt exist." Captain Arriaga stepped in, his voice all authority. "I need all of you to come with me to verify your identities. And I'm going to have to take that phone you were using to record without consent." Amber's mouth twisted like she wanted to argue, but one look at Martin and she thought better of it. The three of them shuffled off, with the officers toward the patrol car at the corner. Jessica walked over to me. "Mr. Arthur, this is exactly what I warned you about. They're hunting for any excuse to call you incompetent, to take control of your assets. Who are these people, really?" I asked, watching them pile into the car. "The woman works for a law firm that's notorious for shady inheritance cases. The man, I doubt he's any kind of doctor. And your daughter she knows exactly what she's doing." I finished her sentence for her. Jessica nodded, looking grim. "Mr. Arthur, this is only going to escalate. We need to stay ahead of them." Inside, Helen waited for us. She looked shaken, but held herself steady. Once we made sure she was all right, we moved to the living room to figure out our next move. "What they pulled today is just the start," Jessica said. "They'll try again. probably with real officials next time. We need to legally prove you're of sound mind. How do we do that? Helen asked. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking you to a geriatrician and a forensic psychologist for evaluations. Their reports will be key if they try to challenge you in court. I nodded. It made sense. And what about that forged power of attorney? I've already filed a complaint. Mr. Lopez, the notary, is cooperating. He vaguely remembers Mrs. Helen, but admits he didn't check her ID properly. That helps us. We've got a good shot at having the document thrown out. Jessica pulled some papers from her briefcase, spreading them across the table. On top of the trust we've set up, I recommend this. She pointed at a legal form, an advance directive. It lets you pick someone you trust to make decisions for you if you ever do lose capacity. That way, Nathan or the Leesmers can't touch your affairs, no matter what. Helen's voice caught. Who would we even choose? Nathan is our only son. The question just hung there, heavy, painful. The truth was, besides Nathan, there was no close family we could trust with that kind of responsibility. Think about friends, Jessica said softly. People who've stood by you, who've proven their loyalty. Roger flashed into my mind, my friend and fellow driver. 15 years by my side, almost like a brother. But would he take this on? I didn't know. I have someone in mind, I said at last. But I need to talk to him first. Jessica nodded. No rush on this. Right now, the important thing is getting the medical evaluations and locking down your legal position. After she left, Helen and I just sat there in silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling. I never thought we'd end up here, she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. Protecting ourselves from our own son. I pulled her close, feeling her pain as if it were my own. Because it was. Me neither, my love. But we don't have a choice. Nathan's made his decision. We have to protect ourselves. How did this happen? She asked the room, or maybe just herself. We raised him right. We gave him everything. It's not your fault. Or mine, I said, trying to believe it. Deep down, I wondered if we'd gone wrong somewhere. Maybe it started when Nathan fell in with the Leas. They changed him. Or maybe they just brought out something that was always there. Helen murmured, maybe they just brought out what was already inside him. I didn't have an answer. All I could do was hold her tighter as the daylight faded, shadows stretching across our little living room. Asterisk. The next day, just like Jessica planned, we went to see the geriatrician and the forensic psychologist. Both of them took their time, asking us all sorts of questions about our routines, our money, our memory, how we make decisions. I felt a wave of relief when they finished. Both agreed we were completely fine. You're not just clear-headed, one of them said. You're more than capable of handling your own business. The psychologist, an older man with a gentle face, added, I'll make sure that's in my report. On the way home, I stopped by the old spot where us rideshare drivers used to hang out between jobs. I needed to see Roger. There he was, sipping coffee and leaning against his car, waiting for the next ride. Arthur, he called out, smiling. How's it going? Did you sort out your problem? I sat down next to him on a cement bench. More or less, I said. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So I told him everything Nathan's seen, the mess with his in-laws, the forced evaluation. Roger listened without interrupting. his face shifting from surprise to disbelief to anger. "I can't believe it, Arthur," he said when I finished. "Your own son, all for a house." "It's more than just the house, Roger. It's the money. It's about control." I let out a long sigh. "Listen, I need to ask you something important." I explained the whole advance directive thing and what it meant. Roger didn't even hesitate. "Of course, Arthur. It'd be an honor. You and Mrs. Helen have been like family to me since my wife passed." Hearing that, I nearly choked up. Real friends like this, especially now, meant everything. "Thank you, Roger. You don't know what it means to us." We sat and talked a bit longer, then I headed home, all mixed up inside. Sad because of the rift with my own son, but also grateful for people like Jessica, Martin, and Roger, people who weren't going to let us face this alone. When I got home, Helen was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with a focus I hadn't seen in days. There was something different about her. "How'd it go with Roger?" she asked, not looking up. "He said yes right away," I told her, washing my hands. "He said it's an honor." Helen just nodded, as if she'd expected nothing less. "Good. Tomorrow we'll call the lawyer and get the paperwork started." She set down her knife and looked straight at me. "Arthur, maybe we should change the locks on the land, too." I was caught off guard for a second, but she was right. That little plot we'd bought for retirement was just as much at risk. "You're right," I said. "I'll call Mr. S to handle it." Helen wasn't done. "Also," she said, "I want to learn how to use the phone better, security apps, recording conversations, all of it. I can't just rely on you to keep us safe." Her determination made me feel proud, and honestly, even more in love. She was always tougher than people thought. "I'll teach you everything I know," I said, hugging her. "And what I don't know, we'll figure out together." That afternoon, I started showing her how the security apps worked. The pain from Nathan's betrayal was still there, still sharp. But something else was growing alongside it, a stubborn resolve not to let ourselves get pushed around. Not after all we'd built. We knew this was just the beginning. Nathan and the Ledesmas weren't done. But this time, we weren't going in blind. We had the law, evidence, friends on our side. And most important, we knew we were fighting for what was rightfully ours. As night fell, Miss Jessica texted. The court had accepted our complaint for signature forgery. An official investigation was on the way. It was a small win, but it gave us hope. Watching Helen practice with her phone, I caught myself smiling. Nathan and the Ledesmas thought we were just two old folks, easy marks. They had no idea what we were really made of. The next few weeks passed in a sort of uneasy peace. We heard nothing from Nathan or the Ledesmas, not a word. Instead of feeling relieved, we stayed on edge. Captain Arriaga's words stuck with me. When your enemy is quiet, that's when you should worry most. So, we kept up our routine. I left early for work, picking up passengers at the airport or ferrying tourists to the beach. Helen carried on with her day, too. Now Helen always kept her phone close, recording anything suspicious, just like I'd taught her. One afternoon, I was waiting for passengers at the airport when Jessica Costana called. "Mr. Arthur, we have news," she said, right to the point. The notary, Mr. Lopez, admitted he never properly verified the signature on the power of attorney. We also had a handwriting expert check it. It doesn't match Mrs. Helen's real signature. Relief hit me so hard I nearly dropped my phone. So, the power of attorney's void I said. Exactly. And there's more, Jessica went on. The judge is pushing the forgery complaint. Nathan has to testify next week. Good news, but honestly, it worried me. If Nathan felt backed into a corner, what would he try next? Do you think they'll try something else? I asked. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Mr. Arthur, people like the Lesmes don't give up. They've put in too much. I'm sure they're already planning their next move. After we hung up, I called Helen to tell her everything. She didn't answer. That wasn't like her, especially since she'd gotten so careful with her phone. I called again. Still nothing. My stomach tightened. I cancelled the ride I was waiting for and sped home. During the drive, I called her over and over. No answer. I tried Mr. S., Roger, even Captain Arioga. None of them had seen Helen. I turned onto our street and saw something that made my blood run cold. Nathan's truck sat outside our house, along with another car I didn't recognize. I parked down the block and crept closer. Right then, my phone buzzed. Security camera alert. I opened the app. There they were, Athen, Amber, and a stranger walking into our house. Helen was with them, but she moved slow, almost dazed. A wave of panic crashed over me. I called Captain Ariel. Martin, they're in my house. Nathan and some others. Something's wrong with Helen. I'm on my way, he said. Don't go in alone. Wait for me. But I couldn't just stand there. Helen could be in danger. My heart pounded as I moved toward the house. Before going in, I checked the side window. From there, I saw part of the living room. Helen sat on the sofa A man in a white coat took her blood pressure. Amber filmed everything with her phone. Nathan talked to the camera, full of fake concern. I couldn't hear them, but it was obvious they were trying to create evidence about Helen's health. My blood boiled. Was Helen drugged? Had they made her take something? I hit record on my own phone and headed for the front door. It wasn't even locked on side. I heard Nathan's voice, as you can see. My mother isn't capable of making important decisions. She needs constant supervision. What the hell is going on in here? My voice shook with rage. They all jumped. The man in the white coat went pale and slid away from Helen. She tried to stand, but looked lost, unsteady. Dad, Nathan said, trying to sound calm. We didn't expect you yet. We're just running a medical evaluation on Mum. She's been confused lately. Confused. I shot back, rushing to Helen's side. I grabbed her hand. It was cold and trembled. What did you do to her? Nothing, Mr. Arthur, the man in the white coat stammered, sweating now. I just gave her a mild sedative. She was agitated when we got here. A sedative. Without her consent. My voice rose. And who are you? Are you even a real doctor? He mumbled something I couldn't catch. Amber kept filming. Turn off that camera. I snapped at her. It's for everyone's protection, she said, not missing a beat. We're documenting Mrs. Helen's condition. Right then, Helen spoke, weak but clear. They tricked me, she said, squeezing my hand. Arthur, they told me you'd been in an accident. When I opened the door, they forced me to take some pills. Fury almost blinded me. I took a step toward Nathan. He backed away. Do you realize what you've done? I said, barely holding it together. This is assault. It's elder abuse. It's breaking and entering. We're just trying to help, Nathan insisted. But his voice, honestly, had lost its edge. Mum needs attention. You don't see how she is, because you're out all day working. Enough. I cut him off, not caring how harsh I sounded. I want all three of you out of my house, now. Then I turned to the so-called doctor. And you, tell me exactly what you gave my wife. The man fidgeted, looking more and more nervous. He pulled a bottle of pills from his pocket. It's just a mild anti-anxiety pill. Won't hurt her. The effect wears off in a few hours. I took the bottle and slipped it into my pocket. That would be important later. Out, now, I said again. Nathan stayed rooted to the spot. We're not leaving. We'll wait for the authorities to arrive and assess the situation. What authorities? A chill crept up my spine. We called social services before we came, he said, grinning like he'd just won something. We told them we are concerned about your mental state. They should be here any minute, so that was it. They wanted to create a crisis, make it look like they were rescuing us. I was about to say something when cars pulled up outside. For a second, I panicked. Was it really social services? But then I glimpsed Captain Arriaga's patrol car, and right behind it, Jessica Castaneda getting out of another vehicle. Looks like your authorities just arrived, I told Nathan. Relief washed over me. A minute later, Captain Arriaga stepped into the house with another officer and Jessica. The lawyer rushed straight to Helen, kneeling beside her. Mrs. Helen, are you okay? They gave me something, Helen mumbled, her voice weak. I feel dizzy. Jessica rounded on the man in the white coat, who now looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Did you give her medication without her consent? Her tone could cut glass. Do you realize that's a serious crime? Captain Arriaga turned to Nathan and Amber. You need to come with me to the station. We'll take your statements there. There are some serious accusations here. Breaking and entering. Administering substances without consent. Impersonating an authority. We haven't impersonated anyone, Amber snapped. We're just helping elderly people who can't take care of themselves. Elderly people who can't take care of themselves, Jessica echoed, standing up. I've got medical and psychological reports from 2 weeks ago in my briefcase. They certify that both Mr. Arthur and Mrs. Helen are perfectly fine. Prepared by accredited professionals. Not, she shot the fake doctor a look full of contempt, by strangers who drug people. At that, the man in the white coat broke. I didn't want to do this, he stammered, voice shaking. They paid me to pretend. To act like I was a doctor and say the lady was confused. I'm not a doctor. I'm an actor. I do local commercials. Nathan's face twisted in anger. Shut up, you idiot. But the man just kept talking. They gave me a script, told me exactly what to say and do. They promised there wouldn't be any legal trouble, said it was just a family intervention. Captain Arriaga pulled out his handcuffs. All of you are coming with me. We'll sort the charges at the station. Nathan's whole demeanor collapsed. For the first time, I saw real desperation in his eyes. He looked at me, pleading. Dad, please. He stepped closer. You have to understand, Mr. Harold dragged me into this. He said if we didn't get the house, he'd fire me, take everything. I owe him so much money. Dad, I'm desperate. I stared at him, all sadness and disappointment. So your answer was to steal from us, to drug your mother, to try and declare us incompetent. Nathan was crying now. I never thought it would go this far. Mr. Harold kept threatening me, said if I didn't get the house, he'd ruin me. that he knows people, that he could make my life hell. Nathan, Captain Arriaga, cut in. You can explain all that at the station. Let's go. I watched as they cuffed my son, Amber, and the actor, then led them out the door. Never thought it would come to this. Jessica stayed with us, while Captain Arriaga called a real doctor to check on Helen. Thankfully, the sedative was mild and she was already starting to feel better. While we waited in the kitchen, Jessica looked at me. Mr. Arthur, things have gotten very serious for Nathan and the This isn't just a family argument over property anymore. They've committed real crimes. I nodded, feeling the weight of everything settle on my shoulders. So, what happens next? That's partly up to you, she said. You can file official charges for everything that happened. That would probably mean prison time, especially for Nathan and the Ledesmers, since they planned the whole thing. Even though I was furious with my son, the idea of him ending up in prison just crushed me. And if we don't press charges? Jessica gave me a look she understood. That's an option too. But I worry that if there aren't real consequences, they'll just try it again. The Ledesmers aren't the sort to give up. I spent the night by Helen's bed. She was finally sleeping off the sedative, breathing steady, looking peaceful. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying everything, running over what we should do. The next morning, after breakfast and a long talk with Helen, we made our choice. We called Jessica and asked her to come with us to the station. Captain Arriaga was waiting. He told us Nathan, Amber, and the fake doctor were still in custody. The Ledesmers had been found and questioned, but they were out for now. We sat down in his office. We've decided what to do, I said to Martin and Jessica. We don't want Nathan to go to prison. Jessica nodded. I understand, Mr. Arthur, but I cut her off. We don't want this to go unpunished, either. Nathan needs to understand how serious this is. He needs to learn something. What are you suggesting? The captain asked. Helen squeezed my hand. That gave me the push I needed. We want to make a deal. Nathan has to cut all ties with the Ledesmers. Divorce Amber if that's what it takes. Get a real job. Support himself. As long as he shows he's changing, as long as he takes responsibility, we won't press charges for what happened yesterday. And the Ledesmers? Jessica asked. We do want to go after them legally, Helen said, her voice steady. They're the real culprits. They manipulated our son. They pressured him. They turned him into this. Jessica and the captain exchanged glances. I can set up a meeting with the DAS office, Jessica said. But we'll need Nathan's help. He has to testify against the Without his statement, it'll be tough to make a case. I'll talk to him, I said. I'll explain everything. An hour later, I sat across from Nathan in a cramped room at the station. He looked awful, dark circles, defeated, like he hadn't slept in days. Dad, he started as soon as he saw me. Listen to me, Nathan, I interrupted. Your mother and I aren't pressing charges. But there are conditions. I spelled it all out. He had to cut off the Ledesmers, get honest work, support himself, and most important, testify. Tell everything he knew, how they'd pressured him, their plans for the house. All of it. Nathan stared at me, relief and shock all over his face. So, I'm not going to jail. No, not if you do what we've asked. But listen, Nathan. This is it. You screw up again, betray us again, and that's it. No more second chances. He started to cry. I'm so sorry, Dad, he said, barely getting the words out. I got swept up in everything. Mr. Harold promised me so much an important job. Money, recognitions, the things I always wanted, without really working for it. That's the problem. Son, I said, feeling a mix of sadness and love for him. You've always wanted the easy way, but life doesn't work like that. If you don't earn it, it doesn't mean anything. He nodded, finally understanding. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. Mr. Harold planned it all. He pressured me. They even forged Mom's signature. Good, I said, getting up. Miss Castaneda will come soon to take your statement. When I reached the door, Nathan called after me. Dad, do you think you and Mom can ever forgive me? I didn't turn round. Forgiveness is something you earn, Nathan, with actions, not words. Show us you've changed. Then we'll talk. The next weeks were a whirlwind. With Nathan's testimony and the evidence we'd gathered, the DA charged the Ledesmas with document forgery, attempted fraud, coercion, and helping administer drugs without consent, among other things. Nathan kept his word. He cut ties with them completely. Asterisk. He ended up in a small apartment across town. Roger pulled some strings and helped him land a job as an administrative assistant at the Transport Coop. As soon as Amber saw her husband take the stand against her parents, she filed for divorce and moved back in with her family. People whispered that Mr. Harold lost a few big contracts after the whole court mess dragged his name through the mud. Helen and I just kept going. If anything, we felt closer after everything that happened. The house, safe now in the trust we'd set up, stayed our anchor, a reminder of years of honest work and sacrifice. It took months before we agreed to meet Nathan. We picked a quiet coffee shop, kept it low-key. The conversation was stiff at first. He told us about the new job, about learning to stand on his own for once. It's tough, he said, but I think I'm finally doing what I should have done years ago. There was no big scene, no dramatic hugs. Just a small, shaky step towards something like forgiveness. We both knew it'd be a long road. Eventually, he started visiting more. He never moved back in, and we never gave him our full trust again. But he showed us through what he did, not what he said that he understood. Inheritance isn't a right. You earn it with your choices, with your character. As for the Ledesmas, the law handled them. No jail time, but they paid heavy fines and new rules kept them from doing much business. One afternoon, Helen and I sat out on the porch, coffee in hand, just watching the sunset spill over the rooftops. She squeezed my hand and gave me that look after 40 years. It still steadied me. Arthur, she said, sometimes I think this all had to happen. Maybe Nathan had to hit bottom to find his way. I squeezed her hand back. Maybe I just wish it hadn't hurt so much. She smiled, soft and steady. Pain changes people, but we learned we're stronger than we thought. I nodded. And no one can take away what we built together. Not even Nathan. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky wild shades of orange and purple. Our house, simple, sturdy, stood behind us, holding the story of our lives, the hard days, the hope, the battles, and the victories. And as I sat there holding Helen, I realized that's what mattered. Not the bricks, not the paperwork, but the life we'd built side by side. Honesty, grit, real love. That's the legacy. No one, not even those closest to Uskan, ever take that away. If my story touched you, stick around for more Williams revenge stories. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support keeps me going and reminds me these stories matter. Asterisk.